I'm Theresa Miller, Pennsylvania's Insurance Commissioner, and I want to welcome all of you to this public hearing. And thank you for being here and attending a hearing on what I think is a very important issue for consumers concerning the cost of health care. The issue is surprise balance billing. This happens when someone gets their medical care from providers and at facilities that they believe are in their health insurer's plans network, and only to get a surprise bill, often a very large bill, a few weeks or even a few months later. They get this bill because some provider involved in the medical service this consumer received was out of network. The insurance department has received numerous complaints over the past few years. Given Governor Wolf's and my priority of consumer protection and the Wolf administration's goal of expanding the accessibility of affordable health care, I believe this is an issue worth exploring. At the outset, I want to acknowledge the work already done on balance billing by the Department of Health, as well as by a number of insurers and healthcare facilities. However, after looking more into this issue, it's clear to me that there's still a problem for many Pennsylvania consumers, and I want to gather information about where we stand today in Pennsylvania on surprise balance billing, something that many states across the country either have or are now trying to address. Today, we'll hear from consumers who've gotten surprise balance bills. We'll hear from consumers who thought they'd done their research and the providers and facilities that they were going to get care from were all in network. Despite these efforts, these consumers still got unexpected and upsetting bills because somewhere during their treatment, an out-of-network facility was used or an out-of-network provider participated in their patient's care. These consumers had no way of knowing that this was happening. A number of other consumers could not attend today's hearing for various reasons, and they've sent us their experiences about balance billing and encouraged us to share their stories, and I want to share just a few of those with you this morning. Carrie from Philadelphia received a reminder from her provider that she was due for her annual mammogram. Because she had new insurance, she reached out to her provider ahead of her appointment to ensure that her new insurance would be accepted. She was assured that there would be no problem and her insurance would indeed be accepted. Following her appointment, she received a bill for $123 because the mammogram was read by a non-preferred provider. Pamela from Monroe County went online before her routine Pap test to ensure that her doctor was a preferred provider. She still received a balance bill because her Pap test was sent to a laboratory for pathology that was not in her insurer's network. Shanna from Lancaster County wrote about the delivery of her baby at a hospital and with a doctor that she had verified were in network. Because of complications during the delivery and medications the mother was taking, the hospital policy called for the baby to be seen by a neonatologist. There was no other neonatologist available, and the neonatal care unit was out of network, resulting in a $793 balance bill. We'll also hear today from Senator Schwenk, from the Insurance Department's Bureau of Consumer Services, the Attorney General's Office, consumer advocates, and academic experts. Insurers, healthcare providers, and representatives of healthcare facilities will also offer their thoughts. And I'm glad we have representatives of all of these groups here today because they're all going to be part of the solution. My goal today, in addition to gathering information on the issue of surprise balance billing, is to get ideas on how to deal with this problem and draw input from everyone involved. By bringing all the stakeholders together and hearing various perspectives, we can look for solutions. My ultimate goal is to find ways to protect consumers from these surprise balance bills. When someone undergoes a major medical procedure, they need to focus on their recovery, especially when they and their families have taken the time to research and use providers and facilities that are in the insurer's network. The last thing people need is to get a bill in the hundreds or thousands of dollars from an out-of-network doctor or facility the consumer may not have even known was involved in their care. With me today on the panel are Jessica Altman, the Department Chief of Staff, and Executive Deputy Insurance Commissioner Seth Mendelson. A number of you in the audience have signed up today to testify, and we will announce each testifier or panel of testifiers and let you know who will be following the individual or panel testifying to make sure we keep things going. Please proceed to the table when you're called as quickly as possible. Make sure the microphones at the table are turned on and speak into the mics so that everyone in the auditorium can hear you. We have a lot of people signed up to testify today, so we're asking you to please keep your comments to as close to 5 minutes as possible. And we also encourage anyone to submit written comments to supplement your testimony. Anyone who did not sign up ahead of time but would like to testify, please see Allie Fogarty or whoever is sitting at the table just outside this room. And we'll try to keep on schedule so we have enough time to accommodate anyone who didn't sign up today but would like to speak. And also, this hearing is being live streamed and will be posted following the hearing on the Insurance Department's website at www.insurance.pa.gov. Thank you again for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Senator Schwenk.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller, and I want to, at the outset, express my deep regard and thanks for your interest in this issue, for really moving quickly since I talked with you about it. It's certainly been part of your knowledge base, but to hear, I think, from state legislators who are also hearing from constituents about this issue is really important, and you've taken that to heart and have moved forward on it, so I appreciate it. I serve, at the outset also, I should say, I serve as co-chair of a bicameral Women's Health Care Caucus. So this issue is certainly very important to us. So again, another reason for me to be very appreciative of this opportunity. Just like you, Commissioner Miller, I was thrilled when Governor Wolf was able to expand health choices in Pennsylvania, and the passage of the Affordable Health Care Act on the national level has meant a lot to my constituents. That's good news because screenings for breast cancer, colon cancer, and other diseases where early detection is vital are now covered in every insurance policy without a copay or deductible, so we think. So imagine the shock for someone who finally gets insurance, uses it for that health screening that they put off for years because they couldn't afford insurance, and then end up with a shocking bill, a surprise bill that they never anticipated. I believe, Commissioner Miller, that too many people just go ahead and think that's part of the process and they pay it, but it should not be. And I think it should be of concern to all of us about it. For many of these individuals, when they get those bills, it's from a company or from a provider that they never even heard of. Many of them went the extra mile to make sure that they had coverage, that they were working with an in-network provider, and then end up with a bill. So thinking that they've done their homework, they figure, well, I guess I have to pay this bill. Fortunately, a lot of people have brought this to our attention, and I think that we can address it. Because to me, it's more like a bait and switch, and it's an issue that really, I think, will impact preventative health care for many Pennsylvanians. These debts, these expenses or these bills are not just hidden, they're almost impossible for the typical healthcare consumer to discover ahead of time. And as I said, that can raise fear or doubts. You may go once for your mammogram, but you won't do it again if you think this is going to be the experience you'll have in the future. We're fortunate in my district to have two very good hospitals, but earlier this year, I learned through Jay Mahoney, an insurance broker with Gallen Insurance, who we'll hear from later this morning, that a number of women who went to them for mammograms have been balance billed. It turned out that the radiologists working at the hospital were not hospital employees, but were employees of a private practice that served both these hospitals. So this is an issue, whichever hospital you use in my district, and it was outside the women's insurance networks. The fact is that patients rarely choose specialists who might be involved in their care, especially when the care comes through a hospital. And it's very unlikely that a typical patient knows in these situations who that whole list of caregivers would be and whether they would be in or out of the network. Today, just slightly more than half of the women who should get mammograms do so, despite the fact that 1 in 8 women is likely to get breast cancer, and that having mammograms regularly can lower the mortality risk from breast cancer by 30%. It's simply unacceptable for us to know those facts and then to go on with procedures that really put women at a disadvantage in terms of the cost of their health care. We know, because we've discussed it, that states around the country are now attempting to address this, and Pennsylvania needs to do so as well. And Commissioner Miller, again, I appreciate and commend your prompt and serious response to the concerns, because I know you've heard from me and others about the issue. And I'll just show you, this came in the mail the other day to me. It's the November issue of Consumer Reports, and has an article in there on healthcare problems, medical bill sticker shock, and the number 1 and 2 items are on balance billing, and the fact that people sometimes have care by providers that they didn't anticipate and are charging them for that. Whether we use an assignment of benefits process, such as the state of New York enacted earlier this year, which what they do is they send the balance bill directly to a patient's main provider, a dispute resolution board, which we talked about, or some other method, patients deserve to know beforehand whether they will be personally responsible for their care costs. It's the only way that you can make a good decision on your health care. And that's what we expect people to do. And that's what we need to do to have healthy people in this Commonwealth. I want to, again, thank you, but I also want to thank Jay Mahoney, who is here, for bringing this to my attention, as well as Nicole Brambilla, who is a reporter from the Reading Eagle, who has really given this story a lot of coverage. And as a result, I heard from many more consumers that I might not have heard from about this issue. We even received support from the Breast Cancer Support Services of Berks County, because they recognize this as a real barrier to better outcomes for women and more survivors for breast cancer. But of course, there are other medical issues too. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mendelson and Ms. Altman, for listening to my testimony. And I'm hopeful that we will come to some resolution on this. If not administrative, if we can't do it that way, I'm certainly prepared to work with you on a legislative response to this issue.
Thank you so much, Senator. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
My name is Jay Mahoney. I'm an insurance agent with Gallen Insurance in Shillington, Pennsylvania, and I've been in the benefit arena as a benefit manager for about 15 years. I'm not a career insurance person. I come out of a whole totally different part of the world of business, basically in the Garment District in New York, and I'm very proud to listen to that gentleman give New York its praise as it relates to doing something about the balance billing. I just want to make a few comments. Senator Schwenk did steal some of my thunder, but that's fine with me. I wanted to thank you, Commissioner Theresa Miller, for calling this hearing on balance billing, which is causing patient confusion, frustration, and unnecessary cost. I also want to thank Senator Judy Schwenk, who has left, who, when I contacted, immediately recognized that the balance billing issue needed to be dealt with as urgently as possible. And I have to thank Nicole Brambilla, who's out in the audience there somewhere. She is the Reading Eagle investigative reporter whom I called after a frustrating conversation with one of the hospitals, which shall remain nameless at this point in time. Nicole thoroughly investigated and interviewed the hospitals, providers, and patients, confirming the balance billing program. Now, someone, I think you're with Senator Schwenk's office, asked me, is it still going on? Well, I just brought a few. Each one of these represents a balance billing issue that I've had to deal with in a very short period of time. The first one actually goes back to July of 2013, where I wrote a letter to the, it's right here, to the CFO of St. Joe's Hospital, because at that point in time, I didn't know about the balance billing issue. After this lady had and I redacted her name, I didn't get permission to read her name, had produced a procedure at St. Joseph's Medical Center in February of 2013. That's how far back this is going. The issue is the radiology images were sent to a non-participating provider to read. This lady continues to get an invoice from J.M. Winston Radiology for $150 less than out-of-network payment by United Healthcare of $2113. J.M. Winston is not a provider for all of the healthcare insurances that St. Joe's use. So that is the major part of it, okay? I also, before you became the commissioner, So this is not a reflection on you. On December 23rd, 2014, I wrote to the Pennsylvania Insurance Department. Patients at the Reading Hospital are being billed unfairly for imaging services from West Reading Radiology for services performed at Reading Hospital. These bills are generated by the fact that Reading Hospital outsources the reading of the images to West Reading Radiology, a non-participating provider. West Reading Radiology does not accept all insurances. The imaging service is performed at the hospital, and those images are given to West Reading Radiology to read. The patients are totally unaware of this practice and are sent additional bills for the out-of-network procedure. This is only a part of what I've dealt with over the last several years. It's 26 of them, I think, here. In many cases, there should be no additional charge for the imaging performed at Reading Hospital on behalf of their patients. The question is, how many patients have paid that I'm not aware of unnecessarily for these services to West Reading Radiology? When I personally tried to discuss the issue on behalf of some of my clients, the Reading Hospital Billing Department told me it was not their problem. Reading Hospital should use providers that accept the same insurances that the hospital accepts and should not overburden their patients with additional charges. That day is the day that I called Nicole Brambilla of the Reading Eagle. And she tempered my rhetoric and swear words, I'm very happy to say, and then picked up the ball and it has written several articles about it, one of which has generated the interest with Senator Schwenk, who I am very, very happy has gotten involved in it. I wrote to Senator Casey, and I will tell you that Senator Casey did send a letter to HHS, the Health and Human Services, and the part of that letter I'm going to read. I am disappointed to learn that some women seeking out the screening that is recommended for them and that is supposed to be covered without additional charge are being surprised with balance billing charges because the radiologist who read their mammogram results was not considered an in-network provider. That itself is going to stop women from going to get their mammograms, which, if caught early, breast cancer can be treated and eliminated. And to me, that's egregious. Billing charges because radiologists who read their mammograms was not considered an in-net provider. It goes on and on and on. Senator Schwenk, I'm following up on Mr. Mahoney's May 15th inquiry. My concern is that while this oversight impacts all kinds of medical procedures, it is particularly egregious to me as co-chair of the Pennsylvania General Assembly Women's Health Caucus that a medical procedure like mammograms has become more costly for many women, especially when the ACA stipulates that these essential procedures are supposed to be covered at no additional cost under the ACA. The intent of the ACA was to eliminate that situation. Now, my people that I deal with, my clients, my customers, hear me say innumerable times, do not pay a bill you don't understand. Because this is a confusing issue without anything. So that's how I've gotten to adjudicate a lot of these issues. I don't know how many people out there have not had somebody to stand up for them and fight for them as it relates to getting these bills taken care of. It could be thousands for all I know. I mean, I must have 150 to 200 people in the last couple of years that I've helped out with this kind of thing. I want to really thank this gentleman and the last presenter because it is completely, I'm going to read this, it is completely unreasonable and horribly unsafe to expect a patient lying on the hospital bed waiting to go into surgery to ask the anesthesiologist assigned to their care if they accept their insurance. And I'm sitting out there next to my wife, who's very wonderful to me too because she puts up with me. Well, maybe we ought to have our insurance cards tattooed on our foreheads so that we don't have this kind of an issue. Another one, when I go to the hospital, there's no sign posted that says the radiologist, the anesthesiologist, the pathologist don't participate with the carrier that I have. There is no way as a patient you would know that, and you go in because your doctor participates and the hospital participates in your health plan, and then these bills start coming. You don't understand why they're coming. You think you followed the rules. I deal with a lot of nonprofits in my area, a lot of them. I'm on the board of a couple of the nonprofits in the area, and I'm very, very concerned as it relates to what happens with this kind of thing. Sorry to say, but in the nonprofit arena that help a lot of people in this state, those people are not highly paid. And every dollar they earned is important to them. Many of those people have gotten these bills and are not able to pay them, and where do they go? They go collection, and all of a sudden they're getting bills from a collection agency threatening them. And they should have never gotten a bill to begin with. So this is an issue that I'm extremely passionate about. One last thing I'll read. This was from a letter that one of my clients sent to me. Thank you for making us aware of this issue at Day Springs Insurance Meeting. That's one of the nonprofits in my area that I work with. Otherwise, my husband would surely have written a check for the bill as soon as he saw it come in. People are paying these bills, not even understanding what they have. Yes, it is a major issue. The thing that gladdens me to a great degree is the fact that you're involved in this. And I think with your help and with Senator Schwenk's help and with whoever else can get involved in this situation, it's going to be taken care of. It is a major issue right now. And I really thank you for bringing me here, and I'm very proud to be here and to stand up for my people and to see if we can get this thing taken care of. There's two other things that I want to throw on the table as it relates to looking at the whole healthcare arena. One is the step therapy issue. Now, step therapy, for those of you who don't understand it, is that the pharmaceutical companies require a patient to go through the generic medications before they're allowed to get the brand. In many cases, the generics do not work for people. I've got one in my office, which is really why I'm bringing this up right now, a young lady who has a tremendous problem with her esophageal reflux and constantly throws up. She went through the step therapy with the previous carrier and the doctor with Nexium and Prilosec and 3 or 4 others. The only medication that worked for her and works now for her to prevent this issue is a medication called Dexilin. The carrier has denied that medication twice for this lady, and in my opinion, that lady has been put in jeopardy and possibly could have long-term damage. Now, that to me is ridiculous. I think there's an issue with this step therapy also, where there are people in these carriers, I don't know who they are, I've never met them and never heard of them, who are making decisions on people's lives. When the doctor says that the brand is necessary, the brand should be given to the patient without question. The doctors are being second-guessed in these cases with the step therapy. I think that is something we have to take a look at. The other thing that I'd like us to take a look at one of these days is the ambulance services. I'm not against ambulances. I'm saying there's no control over them. I had one recently where it was $13 a mile to take somebody 20 miles to the hospital, $13. So I figured I'd tell my boss, when I come back today, I'm going to charge you $13 a mile from my home to Harrisburg and back. I think that's unreasonable. The ambulance services have to be looked at too, because most of them do not accept insurance. So again, I thank you very, very much for the time, and I'm available if you need me for any kind of help as it relates to this. I'm extremely passionate about it. Thank you.
Well, Jay, I just want to thank you for being here. I think this is an issue worth getting passionate about. I appreciate your passion, and thank you for being so diligent and being so dedicated and helping these clients of yours and bringing this to both Senator Schwenk's attention and then to my attention. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.